Hi, I'm Chris Seymour and I'm Director here at Hill & Knowlton's Mobility and Transport Practice. And I'm joined by Dan Hubert from AppyWay. Hi Dan.
Hello, how are you?
Very good. Yeah, so tell us a bit about AppyWay and how did it come about?
So it came about in 2013 when I was frantically looking for a place to park when I was going to see Cirque du Soleil at the Royal Albert Hall in Kensington. All the paid bays were full, all the residence bays were full, all those bays had individual restriction times, rule times, and there's all these yellow lines park everywhere. So I thought, well, if I could park there, that'd be fantastic, but I didn't know if I could park there because there was no information. A traffic warden walked past, thankfully at the time, and I asked him if I could park there, and he said, yes, of course you can, silly. And I said, well, okay, thanks. But
looking up at a sign
looking at no sign. Yeah, he said, I said, where is this sign? Give me a sign. And he said, it's 2 streets down the road, a controlled parking sign is the sign. And I was like, well, thank you for that information. It'd be handy if that sign was right here where I wanted to park. So anyway, I parked up, had VIP parking essentially right outside the doorsteps of the Royal Albert Hall, and then through the whole concert, so for the whole event, I was not thinking about these death-defying stunts. I was just thinking about what happens if I put all this data of the curbside into an interface, into an app, so that every driver can make the considered decisions before they set off and understand where to go on arrival. So that's how it started.
Amazing. So it's been a long old journey.
It's been a huge journey. Yeah, from no data to lots of data.
And so, can you explain what in those years since its inception, where you've got to? What does it do now? What's
So AppyWay is an intelligent curbside and smart parking platform, and it's really unique in the sense it gives city managers, traffic engineers and parking departments the best possible tools and data to manage their piece of real estate. It's 4 inches of curbside, but yet fraught with lots of regulation. It's highly political, highly charged. Yeah. So it gives the cities the best tools to allow them to manage the curbside, and then from that comes data, and the data goes out into apps and APIs, into data feeds, and the data that we offer can answer the 3 major questions that any driver in the world wants to know, which is where can I park, is there a space, and can I pay? Where can I park is parking rules, all the sign plates that I was seeking to find before. Is it available is all about availability, so is the space free or not, and can I go and park there? And then can I pay? That's the cash till, the till to the curbside. So our API can answer 3 of those parking conundrums in one simple data feed via apps and APIs.
Amazing. And how do you collate that data? I imagine it's again, you talk about fraught with difficulties. I imagine that's again another conundrum.
Yeah, so I mean, back in the day there was no data, and where you sort of have TfL providing APIs to the likes of Citymapper, there were no platforms, there were no APIs. So I was had a bit of a problem trying to create a customer-facing app when there was no data. So first of all, I jumped on my bicycle at the time and started to cycle around London, mapping out all the controlled parking zones. At about 2,000 zones, I stopped and then pieced them all together like a jigsaw piece, stuck it into an app, and I was like, well, I can't be doing this. This is not sustainable for me as a person. And so then I knew that I needed to create a platform for the cities. And so where we are now, we've got granular curbside maps for over 500 towns and cities across the UK. We've got 14,000 kilometres of London mapped at sub 20 centimetre accuracy, so every metre. The edge cases, so 110,000 edge cases currently we process in the platform.
So what's an edge case?
So that's literally the parking rules. There are 110,000 parking rules that we process. So you have 110,000 chances of getting a parking ticket essentially in the UK as it stands. And we've got enough data to essentially park about 5 million cars on the whole curbside. So it's turned into a very big geospatial parking and loading rule data set.
Amazing. And I mean, in terms of sort of working with local governments, I imagine that it's a hard thing to sort of connect to them and share that data. Where are you at with that?
Yeah, it is. It's extremely hard. I mean, working with local authorities is notoriously painful, and lots of companies don't want to go into that battle. But I always knew that giving them the best platform to manage the data creates authoritative data, and then it can ultimately offer compliance then to drivers who generally want to go and park compliantly. So the way we work really is we work with local authorities. There's a fantastic initiative with the Department of Transport right now. They're on a big digitisation strategy, and there's essentially 200 local authorities out of the 408 that are legally required to actually create regulation maps. So on this journey over the next 2 years, we're helping cities digitise their streets by using sort of essentially like a Google Street View car that goes around. We then extract the data from these surveys, turn them into traffic regulation order grade geospatial files, and then we then give the city more capabilities such as EV request portals, public consultation. So we start building capabilities on this data set for the city.
So there's real benefits to the city, I guess, in terms of sort of keeping those cities moving, but also, massive impact from sustainability. From what I understand, people spend a huge amount of time driving around trying to find car parking spaces legally.
Yeah.
And therefore they're just polluting aimlessly, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think on both sides of our platform, we're a public sector GovTech platform and a private sector API for mobility. On both sides of our platform, there are huge economical and environmental benefits to both sides. On the government side, 408 local authorities spend about £1 billion a year, just 408, managing the curbside, either parking or loading services. So it's a huge drain. It's not sustainable.
Why is that in terms of what's that money going into?
Manpower. To enforce the streets, multiple departments doing different parts of the curbside. I always say it's 4 inches of curbside, but there's 8 departments working in silos and not talking to one another is the old school method. And luckily we're seeing sort of more alignment within departments, but they have nothing to be aligned on if they don't have the data to talk about it. So the economical benefits, the optimization benefits for local authorities, they're seeing up to 75% efficiencies using our platform to speed up perhaps the change of a paid bay to an EV bay, whereas it would take a lot of time and a lot of money just to change one bay. We can speed up all of these sort of the new demands of the curbside and help the city speed that up. And obviously on the other side, we are essentially we're giving true A to B journeys, so vehicles can actually arrive or know where to go before they arrive. So ultimately, give them a choice about is driving the right thing to do in the first place. If you have to drive, we can then say exactly where they can go. And that obviously saves parking fines because it's compliance data, and then obviously they can then work out the closest place to their destination, so they get more jobs per day, especially with the sort of fleet industry.
And I guess everyone assumes that councils want to fine people, so this seems like a sort of a negative thing for local governments, but from what you tell me, that might not be true.
It's definitely, the parking departments do make the most money in the local authorities from enforcement, but that's always come from the analogue industry that we've been in. There hasn't been the data to understand where vehicles are and what they're doing. But now, in the world of connectivity and more every vehicle being connected, those data points are surfacing. So cities can start to actually think about how do we turn the curbside into a positive revenue engine. And the positive revenue engine has huge implications both on the city and on every vehicle that needs to access that curbside. It unlocks significant value. So the cities can start to sell compliance, which has a lot more value than cities having to sort of spend millions and millions on enforcement.
So it's good for everyone. You're keeping the cities moving. Everyone's getting information that they need. Consumers aren't getting fined unwittingly, because to your point right up at the beginning, you were saying actually people don't knowingly try and go and say I'm going to break the rules. So, and I guess that there's a impact in terms of increasing fuel prices. People then have to drive around less, so they're actually going to find their parking spaces quicker and therefore save themselves a few quid.
Exactly. I mean, this data can fundamentally help reduce miles driven on the road by all vehicles. and we can direct vehicles straight to the bay rather than them sort of thinking they can get to somewhere near B, and A to B is never B. It's about a mile around B, and the inefficiencies of that. So by giving them sort of true A to B journeys with ultimate like destination data, obviously reduces miles driven and also helps your wallet with the cost of fuel, which has obviously gone through the roof.
And I think for some data that you produced for small fleets, they're losing individually, something like in excess of £1,400 a year, just driving around trying to find one parking space on one day. That's a crazy amount of money over a year, and if they actually doing more journeys than just one a day through their working week, then that's huge amounts of wasted money. So, and are you doing anything then for fleet customers as well as consumers?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're working with a large number of fleets now who either want to use our B2B version of the app or the API. Morrison's Fleet Utilities, most people won't have heard of them, but they do sort of fleet services and field services for the likes of E.ON and doing smart meter installs. With our sort of destination data, these guys are reducing potential job aborts by up to 31%. Which is huge. And the impact of every reduced job abort, obviously over 8,500 vehicles, is significant over the period of a year. And every job abort, if they can't get to the destination, because it's like perhaps 5 minutes walking distance to their destination and the tools are too heavy, it's £100 for every job abort. So we can save them the penalties and also save them the fuel, and obviously make sure they get more jobs done right first time.
And then happy customers.
And so happy customers. Everyone
wins.
Everyone wins. Yeah.
And in terms of thinking about that sort of the future, plans for sort of electrification, is that going to be part of your sort of what next?
Yep, 100%. So EVs, the dependency on being better linked to the curbside for parking and loading is like absolute paramount. Because of our end-to-end nature of the platform, we're sort of in prime position to sort of facilitate a sustainable rollout. Local authorities so right now to change an EV bay can take 6 months and £5,000, for example. So we need to be getting up to 40,000 plug points out a month, and right now, last year we celebrated 25,000 plug points. The only way to make that happen is data and better systems, which we are sort of providing to the city. We've also just released an EV charge point request portal, which allows residents, fleet operators, anyone who wants to go, I need a plug on the street here. And then with our platform, we know then what are the rules beneath the requests to then give them the best, fastest chance of getting that EV sort of rolled out for the city. So it's a standardized, centralized, digitized data set. And then it allows use cases to be sort of plonked on top. So EV charge point request portal is the first place for there. So that's sort of facilitating the speeding up the rollout for governments and infrastructure providers like plug point operators to stick the plugs on the streets. And then obviously on the driver side, we have the next generation driver app, which is parking, loading, real time, and payments, which is basically every EV vehicle driver needs all those three questions answered, like first and foremost.
All under one roof.
All under one roof.
Awesome.
So it provides then obviously the best driver tools for EV.
Amazing. One final question. What next? What's in that great big mind of yours for next evolution?
So I think the driver app is always set out to answer the three questions: where can I park? Is there a space? And can I pay? We've mastered the art of answering the question, where can I park? AppyParking Plus is our new next generation driver app, which is launched in London. And there's 4.6 million vehicle journeys that happen every day in London alone. So how do we sort of help those drivers drive less? Then it's about answering that question across the UK in large towns and then to sort of rural towns. Then we can then bring in the connected vehicle partnerships with a lot of connected vehicle data out there, and starting answering the question on a UK scale, is it available? And then can I pay the till to the curbside, is a problem that's being solved over the next couple of years via the Department of Transport. So the goal really is to provide answer every driver in the UK and give them make parking forgettable, which is our tagline for AppyParking Plus, by answering the question, where can I park, is there a space, and can I pay?
Amazing. Dan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate it.
Cheers.
Thanks everyone for listening, and I'm sure we'll speak soon.